collapse of a civilization rarely begins with a deafening explosion. It begins with silence. Right now, deep within the concrete core of the Hoover Dam, the sounds of the colossal machines that once illuminated the American West are fading. Not from a technical failure, not from a lack of maintenance, but because their sole source of sustenance is running out. For years, the media has been telling you that the West is suffering from a drought and that we just need to patiently wait a few rainy winters for things to get back on track. It's a false comfort. The cruel truth they don't tell: the Hoover Dam isn't broken. It's starved. Its concrete remains rock solid, but the entire climate system that sustains it has completely changed. If you think the silence of these turbines is just a problem for some Nevada or California power company, think again. 40 million people depend on a disappearing river. The water flowing from your kitchen tap, the vegetables on your dinner table, and even the very existence of the continent's most vibrant cities. All are counting down with every foot of water evaporating from the lake's surface. Declining electricity is just a warning sign. Water, that's the real survival crisis. Tens of millions are being forced into a new reality. Snow no longer falls where it should. Water no longer flows at the right time. And later in this video, I'm going to unlock a secret more terrifying than the weather. I'm going to show you a document signed over 100 years ago, a colossal mistake on paper that is directly pushing this entire system to the brink of collapse. Deadpool. Are you ready to face the truth? To understand why this system is teetering on the brink of collapse, we must look back at how it was built. The Hoover Dam was more than just a hydroelectric project. Throughout the 20th century, it was a monument to human ultimate pride, a declaration that we could bend nature to our will. This colossal concrete structure transformed a raging river into a docile regulating machine. It pumped water, generated electricity, and sowed a deadly illusion that the American West could expand indefinitely, provided we had the technology. Cities sprang up, vast ranches emerged in the desert, and 40 million people began to depend on that water. But the Hoover Dam's promise of eternity was built on a deadly mathematical equation: that nature would always regenerate, that the massive reservoirs would always have time to refill after each drought. The Hoover Dam didn't fail because it was built too weakly. It's being tested because the world around it no longer behaves as it used to. And this is where we need to expose the technical facts that the media often misrepresents. When people hear that the Hoover Dam is in danger, most only think of power outages. But the harsh reality is far more profound. The crisis doesn't happen overnight. It's a death divided into 3 stages. Stage 1, decline in live storage. This is the uppermost layer of water, where people can easily release it to regulate cities and farms. As this reserve dwindles, operators lose their autonomy. They are forced to tighten the valves releasing water downstream, triggering emergency restrictions for the entire region. Stage 2, minimum power. Pool at 950 feet. When the water reaches this mark, the physical pressure is no longer sufficient to push through the massive pipes. The turbines will die. The Hoover Dam will completely lose its ability to generate electricity. It will become a silent concrete wall. This event will deal a fatal blow to the energy costs of the entire region, driving electricity prices up many times over. And finally, the most terrifying specter in hydrology, the dead pool, dead water level at 895 feet. Keep this term in mind, because dead pool is not the same as a power outage. When Lake Mead reaches the dead pool level, the water will physically be unable to pass through the dam through any of its spillways. The massive Colorado River will be completely cut off. Millions of people downstream will be disconnected from their only source of livelihood. To understand why this massive system is running out, you have to forget the image of an ordinary river. The Colorado River didn't begin as a flowing stream on a map. It began as snow. Every winter, snow accumulates on the Rocky Mountains. For months on end, this snowpack acts as nature's giant water bank. It freezes, safely storing vast quantities of water. When spring arrives, this bank begins to release its contents. The snow melts slowly, flowing down the streams, nourishing the Colorado River, and eventually filling artificial reservoirs. The American West doesn't survive on sporadic desert rains. It survives on snow falling precisely on the mountaintops, in the right season, and melting at the right rate. But that bank is failing. The latest monitoring data from the SNOWTEL system reveals a harsh truth. Winter is no longer doing its job. Unusually hot weather has caused the snow to melt too soon, or worse, not fall at all in places where it should have been snow-covered. More than 25% of monitoring stations in Colorado recorded a complete lack of snow. When the mountain water bank isn't replenished, the Hoover Dam isn't just losing water, it's losing time. And this depletion creates a devastating domino effect throughout the entire system. Lake Mead isn't alone. Hundreds of miles upstream lies Lake Powell, the Colorado River's second reservoir. Powell was designed to act as a shield, holding and regulating water flow to Lake Mead. But with water inflows to Lake Powell this spring, projected at only about 22% of average, that shield has broken. As Lake Powell falches, the life or death pressure is directed straight at Lake Mead. And the clearest evidence of this collapse isn't scattered throughout thick scientific reports. It's carved directly into the rock. Across the cliffs surrounding Lake Mead is a giant bathtub ring, the remnants of minerals left behind as the water level recedes. It's like a giant historical clock, counting down the life of the basin. Every foot of water lost from that white line is more than just numbers. It's billions of gallons wiped out, the pressure driving down turbines, and the survival choices of tens of millions of people dwindling away. That white ring shows that the decline isn't a sudden accident, but is devouring the river decades by decades. But that white line only shows the amount of water lost. It doesn't tell the whole story of why that water will never return. The media likes to use the word drought because it provides a false sense of security, that droughts will eventually end, and rain will bring everything back. But climatologists and data from thousands of years of ancient tree cores have pointed to a far more terrifying term: aridification. This isn't just a cycle of bad weather. This is a permanent physical transformation of an entire continent. As temperatures rise, the atmosphere becomes a giant sponge, sucking moisture back from the ground. Snow melts sooner, evaporates faster. The land becomes so barren that when it rains, it absorbs the water like a thirsty corpse, leaving not a drop to flow into the Colorado River. If this were just a drought, the Hoover Dam could wait. But when it's aridification, this old system has officially reached its end of life. And when a water system built for the past has to shoulder a new extreme climate, the problem isn't just nature anymore. This crisis is about to reach its most brutal point: the human factor. A legal time bomb was planted over 100 years ago, and now it's starting to count down. Before the reservoirs began to dry up, the river was killed on paper. In 1922, representatives from 7 states sat down to divide ownership of the Colorado River. They allocated millions of acres of water based on a fatal illusion. The data they used belonged to one of the wettest decades in the basin's 200-year history. To put it simply, they divided a pie that never actually existed. For a century, that mathematical error was concealed. The population exploded. Water demand skyrocketed. 40 million people began building a civilization based on the deceptive numbers of the old treaty. And now, as aridification strips away the river's mask, revealing a depleted basin with actual water yields far lower than promised, a life or death question arises. When the system collapses, who will be the first to be cut off? The water crisis isn't simply about measuring how many feet of water are left in a reservoir. It's a zero-sum game. A city needs water to live. A dam needs pressure to turn its turbines, and a farm needs water to sustain its supply chain. There are no options that aren't bloody. No decision to cut water won't lead to economic devastation. And where this cruel question is most clearly manifested isn't in Washington boardrooms. It's on sun-scorched fields. Welcome to Yuma, Arizona, where the water crisis is directly transforming into a food crisis. Here, the Colorado River's water isn't an abstract concept. It's the line between life and disaster. When the system officially entered a Tier 1 shortage, hundreds of thousands of acres of Arizona's water vanished from the allocation books. For the farmers there, that meant unplanted fields, torn supply contracts, and generations of family farms being pushed to the brink of extinction. And this is where you need to understand a critically important concept in the academic system: virtual water. You might live in New York, Ohio, or Texas and think the life or death of the Colorado River has nothing to do with you. But if you eat a plate of lettuce or cauliflower in the winter, you're eating the very water of the Colorado River. Yuma provides a huge portion of the entire United States winter produce. You don't need to live near the Hoover Dam to be threatened by this disaster. You just need to walk into the supermarket. Agriculture is always the first to fall victim when water resources dry up. But when the last fields turn to dust, another colossal entity will face the harsh reality: megacities in the desert, capitals of luxury and growth that defy the laws of nature. While farms are dying of thirst, what are megacities like Las Vegas doing to survive? Are they desperate, or do they possess a survival secret the world should learn? Soon, we will delve into the belly of this urban monster. From the outside, Las Vegas looks like the capital of wastefulness, a mockery of nature. In the middle of a dying desert, giant fountains still run and boulevards still glow brightly. But the truth hidden beneath that neon facade is an astonishing paradox, and also one of the world's most desperate survival mechanisms. Desert cities don't survive by luck or abundance. They survive by extremism. The media often criticizes desert cities, but they don't understand the engineering behind it. Las Vegas is essentially a state-of-the-art closed-loop system. Southern Nevada recovers, treats, and reuses up to 99% of its household water. Every drop that goes down the drain is recycled. But the chilling truth is, even with the best water management system on the planet, they still see the river dying. That's why they spent billions of dollars digging suction pipe #3, piercing through bedrock and plunging straight down into the deepest, darkest waters of Lake Mead. This wasn't an infrastructure expansion project. This was the last lifeline. It was designed so the city could still draw water, even when Lake Mead officially reached Deadpool's point, when the flow through the Hoover Dam was completely paralyzed. Las Vegas wasn't saving water for expansion. They were squeezing every last drop of technology just to keep the city from becoming a depleted wasteland. And that's the harsh truth about the solution. Audiences always want a happy ending, that technology or negotiated policies will save the day. But no solution is free, and no adaptation is without bloodshed. Banning irrigation or recycling water isn't enough to compensate for the millions of acres of water wiped out from the basin. States are being forced into a life or death power struggle. Spend billions of dollars in taxpayer money buying back water rights from farmers, or let the farms collapse on their own? And this is where we must shatter the most dangerous illusion, one that even the most optimistic often mistakenly believe: that a few El Niño events, a few record-breaking winters with blizzards, will heal the system. No. Supercomputers and NOAA's predictive models have proven otherwise. Heavy rains may cause lake levels to rise a few feet in the short term, creating a false sense of security. But it cannot reverse the process of aridification. As the continent's physical structure has been heated for decades, the aquifer has been completely depleted. The land has become a giant dry sponge. It will swallow up the rain before that water has a chance to gather and flow towards the Hoover Dam. You can't use a passing storm to cure a climate system that's already suffering from permanent heart failure. The Hoover Dam crisis wasn't a technical accident. It was a catastrophic collision of history. The magnificent infrastructure of the 20th century, the naive water allocation laws written in the 19th century, were struggling to meet the needs of 40 million people amidst the brutal climate reality of the 21st century. The collapse of the system was no longer a hypothetical scenario on paper. It was happening right now with the slow, deliberate turning of the last turbines. For nearly a century, the Hoover Dam stood there as a proud symbol of the industrial age. We believed that by simply pouring enough concrete, building sufficiently large turbines, and drawing up agreements on paper, we could control any raging river and build any civilization on barren land. But nature is never defeated. It only retreats and waits for our weaknesses to be exposed. This is not an irreversible apocalyptic scenario. Humanity possesses an incredibly powerful capacity for survival and technology. The window of opportunity remains open. We can absolutely survive if we know how to renegotiate water rights, restructure agriculture entirely, and reshape how megacities operate. But that window is not open forever, and frighteningly, there is no solution that doesn't come with a ruthless sacrifice of economic power and authority. This crisis was never simply about a depleted reservoir or cut-off pipelines. When the snow on the Rocky Mountains no longer falls according to its old pattern, when historic treaties are burned before the thirst of 40 million people, we are forced to confront a deeper philosophical question. How can a civilization continue to move forward when its very foundations are being drained from beneath its feet? The Hoover Dam is not in danger of falling silent because its concrete isn't strong enough. It is falling silent because an entire land has been built on the belief that the snow will always return. And now, that belief is being tested through each harsh winter. The depletion of the Hoover Dam may be the most brutal test the American West has faced this century. But if you think the water crisis is the only disaster looming, you haven't seen the bigger picture that government forecasting models are failing to conceal. As water disappears, the energy system continues to be stripped of a massive pillar, placing all the pressure on an already aging and fractured national power grid. What would happen if the Hoover Dam collapse collided with a space catastrophe? In the following profile, we will uncover an even more devastating compound event scenario. When the continent's thirst combines with an X-class solar flare that strikes the ionosphere, the power grid collapses. The supply chain is completely disrupted, not for hours, but for months. But right now, I want to hear the truth from you, those of you directly involved in this system. From which state or country are you watching this video? If your tap stopped running and your local power grid was completely shut off for the next 72 hours, what preparations have you made for your family's survival? This isn't a hypothetical question. Please report your location and actual situation in the comments below. We need to share raw survival data that evening. News broadcasts would never dare to air. Don't let skepticism and ignorance become your fatal flaw. Subscribe and turn on notifications to receive continuous updates on our unverified original data analysis. The infrastructure is cracking, and you need to be equipped with the truth when that day comes. See you in the next crisis profile.